Ryan, first thing, obviously you had spent a good deal of the season not living in your own house. How much fun is it to just sleep in your own bed?
I'll tell you, these past 7 to 10 days, it's been nice to just take a deep breath, like you said, be around the family, hug your children, sleep in your own bed, all the above. Even going to a restaurant and having a dinner, even though you have to be distance from everybody else. But it's been a long time since we've done any of that stuff, and it's great to reconnect with the family. It is refreshing after a long season.
And now that it's over, I'm curious about how COVID actually affected you as a coach. And could you give us some examples of some things that you had to do? Obviously, we all made changes in our lives, but some things that you had to do uh, to your job that COVID was unique and presented some things that you may actually take with you in the future.
I think one of the challenges was that you just didn't know what was coming next. And usually you set the calendar out for the next, 365 days and you just follow it because that's what it is, where things were constantly getting changed. And that's not easy for anybody. I think there was a point where we might've been doing less physical work than we typically would, but guys were just exhausted, staff, players, because they didn't know what was coming next. And I think that takes a lot away from you. And so I just think it reinforces to me how important routine is. And as soon as we can get back on our routine of this is exactly how we do things, we're in at this in the morning, we're leaving at this in the morning, we have this, all of those things, it takes away from your focus when you're worried about what is coming next. And over time, that adds up. It adds up, it adds up, it adds up. And I just thought of all the things, I think that just reinforced to me how important routine is in keeping guys in the organization in a routine.
You had mentioned that this team learned something valuable from the Clemson game a year ago. I'm wondering, what do you think will be the overall lesson, maybe on field and off field, from what happened against Alabama?
I think it gives us a benchmark on just, motivating where we need to be. But at the same time, you're talking about two different, very, very different lead-ins into that game. Alabama had much more of a normal year. The amount of games that they played didn't really have, games canceled like we did or lose guys and get out of rhythm during the season. We had, some guys out for the game. We weren't able to. There's just a lot of stuff that went into it. And certainly we never made excuses or anything like that, but it was just very, very different. So to compare the two of them, I don't know. To come out of that game and say we're that far away from Alabama, I don't think that's accurate at all. I think don't take anything away from them. I think they're very good, had a great offense, really well coached. I mean, you know how it is, but we're not that far away. But it also gives us some great motivation in the offseason to figure out where we need to go and shore up some things, in all three phases to go win a national championship. Because as good as we played in the Clemson game, we didn't play well in the second game. For again, we could all make excuses if we want, but at the end of the day, you got to own it. We played the game, and it wasn't good enough.
Thayer Munford and Chris Olave and Jeremy Ruckert and Haskell Garrett now all commit to playing another year at Ohio State where they could all be draft picks. It's obvious they could be. What does that tell you culturally about what you've built? And for them individually, where does it take them from the opportunities they would have had this year versus next year? I would imagine that's going to be a stock booster.
I think the easy thing to do is just to go to run in the NFL and chase the money. But none of these guys wanted to. They understand what it means. And I think as long as this season was, and as much as we were tired of seeing each other after a while, just being in the Woody, and it was really all we had was each other, the fact that they still want to come back and be a part of this thing does show you, how special the brotherhood is here, and the culture is strong. But I think the thing that they understand is that it isn't just about making it to the NFL. It's what you do when you get there. And with a whole season, an off season of training, these guys are all going to, physically mature, and they're going to put themselves in an opportunity to be first and second round draft picks. And when you're a first or second round draft pick, you're different. You're different than a late rounder because, the organization's invested more in you. So they're going to give you the benefit of the doubt where, if you're a fourth, fifth, or sixth rounder, you're going to have to earn everything you get. And so I think they get that, they understand that, and that's why a lot of them came back.
On the quarterback side, it's going to be the most watched story in Columbus this year to find out who ends up getting that opportunity. It's a two guys who've never thrown a pass in college, and then also an incoming freshman. So how unique a situation does that present to you because of the lack of some of the things you'd love for them to have bringing into the competition?
Yeah, I mean, it's another thing that's, just kind of lingering from last year, not playing those 6 games. These guys would have had that experience and we'd have a better feel for where they're at. So again, can't make excuses. It is what it is. We got to move on and get these guys developed quickly. But it'll be a great opportunity for them to compete in the spring, and that'll continue into the preseason. And then hopefully whenever we decide who's playing in the spring, we have somebody for the future that we can build on and grow. And while it'll never be perfect early on, everything you invest in, you're going to get back. Where when you have a veteran guy, if they have one good year, they're out after 1 year back into the NFL. And that's the good and the bad with Ohio State. So hopefully we can find our quarterback for the future.
How much do you think this year aged you? And how will you try to help that situation moving forward?
Well, I have a lot of great people that help. And I think that's one of the things that I have to continually do a better job of is lean on the people around me. And I think my just knee-jerk reaction is just to put it on myself and do it. And I have to continue to learn to delegate that stuff. But because we have great people here at Ohio State. Every time I go to the barber, I ask, do you see any grays in there? There was a couple floating around the other day, so I don't know, maybe it's this year or what. But it's the job. And I think this year, it was all the other things. And and by the way, you got to go win the game this week, because there was so many things that led up to it. And the only way that's possible is if you have great people around you, great leadership, President Johnson, Gene Smith, and all of our medical people, and all the great people who help at Ohio State to make this job possible, made this season possible.
Yeah. Ryan, it was a joy. It was a joy for people to watch this year, to have that distraction, and certainly appreciate all you did and appreciate your time.
Yeah, thanks. Hopefully we gave Buckeye Nation an opportunity to get away from the craziness of the past year and enjoy some Buckeye football, and we'll be back next year.